Growing up, I drank the KoolAid of my parents' and community's beliefs. I made that belief system more important than my own needs and happiness. Looking back, I can't fault anyone for that, not even quote-unquote God. I now have clarity in decisions and choices I make. I'm fully engaged in finding joy in my life, in my own way, without the influence and construct of others. This is an uplifting discussion from there to now.
Hey, everyone. I don't think my speaker's on. My microphone. Hello? Can you hear me? You can? Can we restart? Oh, well, shite.
Hey, that's okay. We can continue forward.
I don't hear anything.
You don't hear it?
Oh, okay. I hear mine now.
Okay. Oh, I really hear me now. Hey.
Okay. Well, guys, this is a rocky start because, as Sean said, he divorced the podcast room and now I'm popping the cherry. Is that how you said it?
Of the coming back from the divorce?
Of the podcast
you're out
room.
Into the world. You have some experience. You're not brand new.
Well, I mean, it's been 3 months.
There was talk about that.
Yeah. 3 months and here we are. Thank fucking God.
Yeah. But we're the first ones back in the studio. So there were a lot of kinks to work out.
Right. And then I didn't even hear myself.
Well, I feel like I feel like I'm pretty loud. So.
Well, today we're going to talk about being nice. Always be nice.
Be a nice girl.
You and I grew up in the LDS community.
Yes.
The Mormon church. But I know that this is a common thread that resonates with all women. Mm-hmm. Maybe more so in America. I'm not quite sure about other cultures, but definitely here in America, mostly white women, because I know some really amazing Latinas and Black women that definitely do not feel obligated to be nice, and I love them to pieces for that reason. They're such good examples to me, for real. I'm saying that for real.
Yeah.
But I have found this so unconsciously in me, and I was telling you, Tara, because we had this conversation golfing together,
Yes,
that I didn't really realize how detrimental it is to women to always be nice. And I used to teach Krav Maga, and it was a women's self-defense class that I would do almost every month. It was a free class. And there was an exercise I would have them do where they would pair up and then stand on each side of the room. And then I told them that one person's going to start walking towards you. Your partner's going to walk towards you. And when they get to a distance that you feel is unsafe, you need to express stop, turn around, don't come closer, all these statements, and really stand your ground and identify what is your safety zone. Mm-hmm. And it was such a simple exercise, but the women had no voice. They couldn't even say stop. They couldn't say stop. They were like, stop. Don't come closer. And I'm like, no, say it from your belly. Yell, don't come closer.
Yeah.
And so it just helped me understand that we don't have our voice by always being nice, and that we are not creating safe boundaries for ourselves either. And there are so many situations we end up in as women where we have to express and say, share our voices and say what we need to say, and we're not. And then we're in peril because we are a weaker sex. And there are many times where I don't feel safe.
Right.
And in situations. And so it is even worse when we don't have our voice.
Absolutely. There's definitely a dampening of the voice in women that we don't feel that we can speak out about things, or that we need to, I guess, play into these expectations of politehood and like conditioning of what's nice and what's not nice.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like we often sell ourselves short. Like we don't listen to like our gut because we're into this mind space of like, oh, but I need to be nice, to be accepted and to fit in and not get, I guess there's all these levels of it. But I definitely know in my own life, I've had to learn the difference between being nice and being kind.
Right.
Where kindness comes from compassion and understanding. And niceness comes from, I think, conditioning and expectations.
Yeah. I was just talking to a girlfriend recently, and we hang out a lot. And I observe guys asking her for her phone number, and she doesn't want to give it to him, but she doesn't even know how to say no. Yeah. She ends up giving her phone number to them. And then they start texting her. And I'm like, so we were talking about it and we couldn't even figure out how to say no because we were so concerned about being nice and not letting the guy down. And then one day I was just like, why don't we just say no? No, I don't want to give you my cell phone number.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Like, it's wild to me how many times I found myself, in my single days in situations that I didn't want to be in because I didn't want to hurt a guy's feelings. Like, for some reason, and it seems like a common theme with women my age and I don't know if like from all over the United States but just women my age I've observed are like, yeah, why did we feel like we had to be nice and like not reject them because we didn't want to hurt their feelings, you know? And I'm grateful. It seems like our daughters and they're learning to be like, no, this is my space. They are learning to honor their boundaries more. So
thank God.
So grateful for that.
When I was about to come here to the podcast room, I texted Sean and I said, oh my God, it's almost podcast time. That's how freaking excited I am about doing my podcast, by the way. And I'm sure it's probably annoying to him. And then I was about to send a text. I was going to say, do you want me to bring you anything? And I looked at it and I was like, I don't want to bring anything for him. I don't want to pick up something. Like, I just don't want to stop at a Star. I just want to come straight to the podcast place.
Should have brought me something.
So I deleted the text. I was like, wait, I don't want to do that. Why would I put that?
Right,
Delete.
podcast over.
But I had to call Tara and tell her, I was like, oh my God. I just love how I have these themes for podcasts and then little things will show up. And, that will reflect why we are talking about this subject. It's such an unconscious thing that we're doing as women. Mm-hmm. And we are taught to self-sacrifice to a self-deprecating level where we are completely depleted in many ways.
Yes.
And to smile and always be happy, engaging, and say yes.
Right.
Fuck that shit.
Totally. I hear you.
It's a revolution.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I've learned, this is a funny example, but where we live, especially, I think there's a lot of pressure to get ready, right? Mm-hmm. And getting ready can be fun and it can feel good. Like, I love, it's great to get ready and I honor it and all that. But then there are days where I do not want to get ready. And so I was on your podcast before and we talked that I went to Costa Rica and did a fast. Mm-hmm. And in that time we fasted from like anything we put on our body too. So I didn't put anything on my body, not even lotion, and so I didn't get ready. And I recorded reels of myself and shared my experience with like nothing. Like, I did not get ready every day, but I was following my heart, so everyone's like, you're so beautiful, you're glowing. And I had not done anything to get ready. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like your energy that creates your beauty. And so I've learned that like, wow, if I get ready today, that's where my energy is going to go. Mm-hmm. And then I don't think I'll have any like energy to do anything. So I'm just going to not get ready. And then I'll have my energy to show up into the world, which is, so much more loving and kind and to the world. So anyways, that's why I'm in my workout clothes today instead of.
What did you tell me when we were on the phone?
Then my thoughts were like, wow, Heather might be like, wow, Tara, you couldn't even get dressed up to come to my podcast. Do you not even like respect me or like respect my show? Like what I'm doing, these thoughts that will run through our heads sometimes. And
I love it.
It's so funny.
I thought it was great. And you look fantastic.
Thank you. Because I showed up how I felt I wanted to show up.
Yes. And you're glowing for that fucking reason.
Because I honored myself.
Yes.
Instead of the expectation of, oh, wow, well, you're going to be on a podcast. Go
my
dress
gosh.
up a little.
I know. Honoring those expectations seriously takes a toll on us. Mm-hmm. And it does take us away from our radiance and joy in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got to stick to our own. I mean, even our own expectations sometimes can be a shit show.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And they're definitely shaped by our environment and our conditioning and our experience.
Yeah.
So everyone's will be different.
Right.
But anyways, it seems, I guess I correlate being nice with expectations. So
that's true. There are certain expectations that we place on ourselves through social conditioning and also just from people.
Right.
And what are some examples of that? We have shared a couple of stories together. where you felt obligated to be nice and accommodating when it was not in your favor at all?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, I do. I learned a big lesson about this in my 30s. My sister-in-law, who I adore, and she will listen to this likely, but her family moved back from out of state. And while they were looking for a place to live, they just lived with their parents, while they were finding their own place. And so in that time, they would come to our house almost every day. And I felt like I needed to be accommodating to that for some reason, even though it was like wearing on me. And I noticed, and there was another sister who would come over too, and they had sister drama, and I would get caught up in it because I only grew up with brothers, so I didn't know how to be in it. And I often found myself sacrificing me to try to be nice and be like, well, I if they're having conflict, I need to be there. I need to help them, or I need to show up, even though inside I felt icky about it and like that I needed to stay away. But I, for some reason, felt like I needed to keep saying yes and showing up. And I don't know. I ended up getting hurt through it, right? And that's okay. I think that happens with sisters, but I had not had sisters,
Yeah.
And but through that experience, I learned how to set my own boundaries and what felt good for me. And one of the coolest things I learned through that experience was that I didn't even have to have a conversation with them to be like, hey, I am setting this boundary, or, and so people think that if you're going to set a boundary that you have to tell the other person that you're setting the boundary, but you don't. Like, you set the boundary and you know what it is and you honor it. And then as I did that, the relationship could be more kind and more real and more genuine. And I could show up with the energy and the love that I wanted to show up in, and not feel like, and resentful. Because I think resentment is a really hard emotion to get over.
Right?
Yes.
I went through a lot of that. I was going through a massive transition in my life where I was licensed to do real estate in Nevada and in Utah. And I had started my business in Utah, and I was traversing both states frequently and had a team of agents in Vegas and a team of agents in Utah. And I had just completely overextended myself. And all these things started mounting these obligations. And I had 2 little kids at home too. And I had a nanny helping me with that and family members. And I just remember just being so resentful, underlying, like I would unconsciously behave and act out. But it's because I was at that time not able to say no. And as I like to call it, I was the real estate cookie monster. I was like, more, right?
Yes.
So that was my own self-expectations that I put on myself to achieve to the most nth degree. And then also, saying yes to everything.
Yeah. It's so weird that we think we have to say yes to everything. I for sure had a complex of that, just saying yes to obligations. And then I realized that when I showed up in a state of obligation, I didn't have a great attitude and I couldn't really show up the way I want to show up, And so I love that I've learned to honor that in myself. And I get that there are some things that are like hard in life that like we don't really want to do, but we need to do. But I feel like that's different, right? Like there's going to be a different energy about it, right? Like maybe it's going to be like a personal growth, like, oh, I'm scared to do this, but I know I need to do this. Like, there's a different energy about it. But there's that gut of like, oh, this feels icky and I don't want to do it. But, and you'll know because I think you get twisted up about it.
Yes.
Oh, I feel like I need to do this.
It's like this like tug of war. Yes, no, yes, no. No.
Right. But
and then you don't even know what you originally even wanted ultimately in your core. You know?
Yeah. You get twisted up about it. So.
Absolutely. That's actually, I'm doing a course next week. And I'm doing this course, honestly, specifically for women to shift from their head into their heart center and to really find out who the fuck they are, what the fuck they want, and how to execute this, and to unleash their creativity, unleash their radiance, unleash joy in their life so that they can literally live their life with authenticity. Because when I have noticed that when a woman does walk around with confidence and authenticity, that other women are not supportive and uplifting and they don't like it. It's like crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
And I think women just as a whole are deeply integrally unhappy because they're not living their truth. They're living according to how everyone else has told them that they need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just across the board. I feel, and I'm going to say it, it's the patriarchy.
Well, it is.
And it's not men.
Yeah.
It's the actual social construct that was created.
Right. And that we all subscribe to. Like, we're all living
We
it
are
out.
all
It's,
agreeing
right.
to live by
Yes.
this.
But there comes a point when they don't, like when we don't, right? And you experience women who are finding more happiness and more authenticity, I believe, as they're waking up to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like there is a shift happening of women finding their voices and their power.
Mm-hmm. Thank God.
Yeah. I feel like we are.
Hallelujah. Well, I like to try. So here's a really great example too. My daughter.
Yeah.
She is really beautifully empathic. And around 10 or 11, I started to notice that when someone asked her, where do you want to go out to eat? She couldn't identify where she wanted to eat. It was always someone else's preferences. And she had always based what she wants on what someone else around her wants, right? And she would say yes to everything for the sake of being nice.
Yeah.
And so I've really had some conversations with her. And I said, what do you want to eat? What do you, like, where do you want to go? And those were some hard exercises. We would go out to eat and I'd literally just sit there in the car with her until she like picked a place.
Yeah.
Without even giving her any hints or clues what I desired or wanted.
Uh-huh.
And then it got to the point too where now she says no almost all the time. So now she's got to find her balance.
That's funny. I can relate because I am such a I'm just a lover and I want to be around the people that I love and my family. And so I am that like, well, what do you guys want? Like, I just want to be along. Like, I'll be happy with whatever we do,
Same.
you know? And I feel like it works for a while, but then there comes a point when you're like, wait, but I do want to do some of the things that I want to do, you know? And so then you have to shift and adjust and have some growing pains as you shift and adjust to add in what you like to do and to be authentic to you. And, you know, you want to experience, like, I know I want to experience the things I enjoy with the people I love.
Right.
Too. And then we can all grow and have new experiences.
Yeah.
And find new joys.
Symbiotic relationships that go both way equally.
Yeah.
It's just possible.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not saying, I am saying down to the patriarchy, but I'm not saying damn all the men.
No way.
Because it's just a matter of us finding a balance because it can't just be 100% matriarchy either, although I think things would run way better. So there's
I honestly think we need to balance each other out. Like,
right?
I feel like if there's anything that my marriage has taught me is that, like, my husband and I balance each other out very well. Sometimes it's painful because I have all these learning lessons, but then, oh man, when we get through them, it's so magical, you know, because we like, you see the design in it. And,
right.
And it's, I couldn't ask for anything better because it's exactly what I need and it's perfect for me.
So ultimately what you're saying is you have found your voice.
Yeah.
You're speaking it clearly in many arenas of your marriage. I'm not going to say anything else. Wink, wink. And you are happy and he's happier.
Yes, absolutely. And it's important to me. And it's like really good to, to speak up what is like important to me in our marriage and like what feels good to me. And because I have been really learning like, oh my goodness, I want to feel like open to my husband. Like I want to feel like melted and warm to him. Like I just want to feel soft.
Vulnerable.
I want to feel that way. And I want us to be connected.
Right.
And so, I've been speaking up a lot about that and making sure we're like living in that place as much as possible because it really matters. And it's beautiful. Like when he participates and like reciprocates and when we're in that space together, and it's really lovely and makes me excited and hopeful because we've been together for 12, 13 years. And so it's great to see it.
I am going to preface this beautiful story by saying, you're like, what is she going to say? Is that we can be in a habit for so long in our lives that we don't speak up for ourselves and we don't set boundaries and we don't say no and we're not, speaking our voice and being authentic and true to ourselves for so long that when we start to do it, there's going to be pushback. I'm just forewarning everyone. This is a warning sign. Expect it, and it's going to be okay. And those who are truly designed and meant to be in your life will stay in your life. And those who are not supposed to be in your life, fuck off. It's okay to shed people. And it really is. We shift and transition and change. I just had a conversation with a girlfriend and she's like, I feel, so-and-so is talking about me and I feel super betrayed. And I'm just calling to tell you that I'm just not going to go to brunches very often with them anymore. I mean, you're welcome to, but the reason why I'm not going to be there, you'll know. And I said, and she goes, I probably won't even end up being friends with them. And I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's so okay to not be friends with certain people or to be in relationships. And you shift and you upgrade in your life when you speak your voice and you live truly to who you are and what you want.
Absolutely. Yes. So I feel like with friends, relationships are so important to me. So I've always wondered what kind of a friend I am. And because I love everybody in my life from my childhood, throughout, I feel like I've had great friends and great people, but I'm not the best at all at keeping in touch with people or reaching out or, I just can pretty easily be friends with whoever's more naturally in my life and people who invite me. And, occasionally I'll be inspired to hey, but I feel like I get plenty of social life anyways by not reaching out. And so it's okay. It works for me, but I don't lean into this expectation of I need to reach out or they won't think I like them or, all that obligation. It would crush me when I would think that. It would overwhelm me,
Right.
I literally don't have the capacity to show up in that way for everybody that I love because I love so many people, right?
Right.
And so it's cool to just honor and reflect honor that sometimes even friends, we're just not vibing each other. And that doesn't mean anything about us. It's probably just what we're going through and what we're experiencing. And maybe our views wouldn't really be conducive or helpful to each other.
Right.
And so maybe we just need that space for each other. So I allow this I haven't seen this person for 6 months or a year and then it's fine. Or I so many of my friends I don't even see in years. But then when it comes down to it, or when I do something when I went on my fast or just show up, so many people just reach out and they're so loving and supportive for my whole life. I feel like I have friends because I just allow the naturalness of it.
Yeah. That's great.
Because I think it's okay to just ebb and flow.
It's true.
We all just come into our lives when we're meant to, and then we have our distance and our space, and we can just love each other and be cheer each other on. You know?
Oh, you're doing that in your life and those things are happening. Fantastic. Way to go. And in my family, no news is good news. So if I don't hear from you, then I know everything's great.
Totally. And then when it comes down to it and we need help, we're going to be there for each other. And we do, And so I love that.
So that's a really good rule of thumb of how not to overextend yourself and over obligate yourself in many, many ways.
Yeah.
As a woman, do men over obligate themselves? I think Sean does.
Maybe. Yeah.
But men in general,
probably.
do they over obligate?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I bet. And I bet in different ways. It's for sure. I'm sure they over obligate.
For providing for a family.
Providing for the family. Yes. Mainly that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of pressure.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
I play the role of male and female in my relationship with myself.
Yes, you do. And you play it well. Well, you do. You have a great life. You have a beautiful life. And you get to travel and see different parts of the world. And I don't know. You get a lot of fun experiences and you're wonderful.
It's true. But I do put a lot of pressure on myself too, to also provide.
Yes.
As well,
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see that within myself.
Yeah.
When it's just me going solo.
Well, I'm on the opposite scale right now where my husband is for sure the provider. I'm, the money I make is kind of just gets a little bit of day to day, extra, or just kind of helps us with our day to day. But he is basically supporting me right now. And that's been a really hard thing
Yeah.
like internally for me, I've had so much guilt about it to feel like, oh, I need to help provide, financially. But then I realized like, wow, but I can provide in all these other ways to our lives, and I can, infuse it with the love and all the things that I want to. And so I've honored that.
And he's honoring you.
And my husband is honoring me. Yeah, he supports me. He's wonderful.
Because you're standing up for yourself.
Yeah, and we're thriving.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and a few years ago we were dying. Like we were not thriving at all. Like we were all struggling.
Yeah.
Maybe my son wasn't, because he's a little guy, but my daughter was, my husband and I both were, and we were struggling in our relationships and individually, and yeah, so it was hard for me to, step back from my job and kind of take that role of having less, but, to have more freedom and time, and yeah, and that's
And as
been
women,
wonderful.
we are designed to be more free-spirited. We are designed to be free-spirited. We are designed to play and dance and frolic, and we're not doing it. We're
Yeah.
trying to act like men, and we need to stop.
Yeah.
You can still make money and frolic. I mean, I'm proving that right now.
Yeah. Well, I know when me and my husband are, like he loves to provide too, like, and he wants to, and he's good at it. And when he feels good, and when I'm believing in him, and when we're good, it seems like more abundance comes our way. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Joy brings back so much.
Yeah.
It's like a boomerang. You throw out joy, comes back right back to you.
Yes, it does.
And it's the same with abundance. You send out some abundance and you give, it comes right back to you.
Yes. Yeah.
I just wanted to pivot back to women's self-defense and just safety out there in the public, and to remember to always use your voice.
Yes.
Because I've got friends that have told me, I have friends that have sadly been raped because they're unable to speak up for themselves, right?
Yes.
Even in situations where the guy wasn't even like violently forcing himself on them, but he was forcing himself.
Yeah.
And still friends, many have said to me that they weren't able to say, no, get away from me, and push them off and actually take physical action. And so I had one friend tell me that one day she was walking on a path in this forest. She was living in Iowa, and every time she ran on this path, there was this dude that would pop out and then all of a sudden start jogging with her. And her instincts and her intuition felt icky, and she didn't feel right about it. But then there was the other side of her that was like, oh no, he's just out there running too. And she just felt super unsafe. And I said, why don't you just tell him to stop and leave you alone, and that you don't want him there, all the time. He's just always kind of like waiting for her. And so she said that, when she saw him, she didn't know how to say it in a calm manner. She literally was just like a spaz. She was like, just get away and don't come back. And the guy stopped and turned around and ran the other direction, and she never saw him again.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Well,
But she had to speak her voice and express that she did not feel safe.
right.
And that needs to be honored by people too.
yes.
There's this other time, and there's been several times where I literally could be called a bitch in a group setting where I felt unsafe, and I literally called the person out and said, do not touch me or don't come closer to me. And one day I was at a gas station, and I feel okay being a bitch. If I need to be a bitch and stand up for myself and my safety, I will do that.
For sure.
Now, I mean, in the past, I would totally say, I can't be mean. I've got to be nice. Fuck that shit. So I was at a gas station, and the only reason why I had my voice then, because this was about 12 years ago, was because I had been teaching Krav Maga. It's an Israeli street fighting. So I know how to take a grenade out of someone's hand and explode it out in the air. And then I do 2 tumbles.
What?
I'm just kidding. I mean, that is one of the techniques we learned with armed attacks. But anyways, I'm getting gas. And one of the things that I know very integrally about street fighting is that you are aware where everyone is from you. And when someone gets too close, it's too late. And I don't care if you're male or female. If I did not beckon you to come to me, don't fucking come to me. And so I was at my car filling up with gas, and I see this chick look at me and start walking towards me. And I was like, oh, she's, I think, actually walking towards me. And she had to have been about 15 feet away, 10 to 15 feet away. No, longer, 15 feet away. And I said to her, stop and don't come closer. And she goes, but what? I just, and then she took a couple more steps forward. I was like, turn around and go. And people at the gas station were totally looking at me.
Well, good for you for protecting your safety.
And she turned around and left. And then I felt really bad. But I've done this in several settings. I've literally just straight up said, don't come closer to me. Literally turn around. Stop. And so we need to learn to find our voice. I actually watched her. And she left. She went over and stood at the gas station by the door. So I felt it was safe to approach her and say, what do you need? And she said she needed money, that her car was broken down a couple of blocks away and that she needed to get to work and blah, blah, blah. And I, so of course, offered to drive her to work. And she goes, oh, no, I just need the money for my car. And then I was like, where's your car? I'll take you to your car. Oh, no, I just need the money. I'm like, okay. Didn't give her money. But anyhow.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? But I think that it's okay, guys, for all of us, I don't think I know, for us to say what we need to say and not worry about being a bitch or being mean or how someone's going to perceive you. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to speak your voice and speak up for yourself. I mean, if you're obviously saying it in a mean-spirited way, yes. But if you're saying it integrally to who you are and what feels right for you and in the situation, fucking say something.
Yeah,
for
totally.
you, for yourself.
Yeah.
And don't give a fuck about anyone.
Right. Well, and I think we need to trust ourselves. Like, I get that there is trauma. Like, I don't know, my brother, he teased me all the time. And like, oh gosh, I would walk down the hall and he'd like throw my head into the wall. Like, so I felt like a little bit traumatized. Like, I love my brother and he's great and we're good, and he has apologized and been a lovely brother to me since. But
that's good.
Yeah. But I was like in a class and some guy was like stretched his arms out and I like flinched, So I get that there is trauma, but otherwise, like generally, like I'm not scared of guys coming my way, but like sometimes you get a feeling and you get a gut feeling and we have to trust that.
Yes.
We have to honor that.
Yes,
right?
always. And we're told that intuition doesn't exist. I've had so many men in relationships with men where they're like, that's not real. And because they've never felt it.
Yeah.
So they don't know. And then they're like, you're crazy. What do you think that? Why do you think that? That just came out of the blue. Like, what? But the thing is every time I've listened to it and trusted it, it has steered me accurately. It has guided me 100%. And so if some guy is going to tell me that I don't have intuition or that my intuition's stupid or that I'm crazy, you better go start running the opposite direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that by now.
Oh, thank God. But
Thank
it
goodness.
did take some relationships to definitely learn that.
Yeah. Because I think we second guess ourselves all the time.
And we need to stop doing that. The first thing that comes to you, trust it.
Yeah. Yep. And don't worry about hurting anyone's feelings. Because I think when we honor ourselves, we honor those people too.
Right.
Because I don't think it actually feels good for people to take advantage of us either. I don't think they actually feel good inside when they do that, right?
Right.
So when we honor our boundary, then it also honors them because they're not doing something awful, I guess, right?
So women and men, stand up and speak your truth.
Yeah.
But also, we need to really band together as women, and we need to draw closer in love and compassion and unbounding love, because it's fucking hard. We've all been drinking the same KoolAid, and we're all starting to detox from that KoolAid.
Yes.
And so we need to be supportive and uplifting and loving at no matter what cost. So if you want to open your mouth and say something mean and derogatory about a fellow female, I think you should think twice, because life is already fucking hard for all of us.
Yeah.
And so we need to just be each other's cheerleaders and stand up and help each other express our voices more.
Yeah.
Especially when your friends are like, no, I just don't want to go. I just don't feel it. Why aren't you coming? Hey, honor that. They don't want to go.
Totally.
And they even spoke up and said it and didn't come up with some stupid bullshit story.
Oh, you don't have to come up with an excuse.
No way. Well, I mean, we're in such a elevated friendship that literally I could say, I'm just not feeling it. And you're like, okay. And there's no hard feelings at all.
We
And I don't
really
even have to
honor
say
it.
anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like life
We would
changes.
say, I'm
ebbs and
glad.
flows.
I'm glad you're listening to yourself.
Yeah. Have fun.
Yes.
Unless you were like, I am in a fetal position in bed crying. I'm like, well, hold on a second.
You might need a little more support. And I'm like, okay, we'll see you later. You're missing out.
Well, it's been so delightful to have you on, Tara.
Thank you, Heather. It's been wonderful to be here.
Yes, for the second time. You're
Thank
fantastic.
you. Oh, thank you.
And
So are you.
Way to go, Sean. Thanks for letting me pop your cherry.
Thank you for listening to the I Drink the Kool-Aid podcast. Join us next time. If you'd like to participate in this discussion, get a hold of us at idrinkthekooladpodcast@gmail.com. Now let me ask you, what flavor of Kool-Aid are you drinking?
This has been a production from a podcast studio.